Hey guys, it's Mason, and this is Wrestling in the Dark, the only wrestling review and recap show brought to you by a blind fan, as far as I know. And this is the Monday Mixup. It's my freeform show. This is where I tackle different topics and questions sent to me. On this week's agenda, we've got: how do I watch wrestling even though I'm blind, and how could my experience be enhanced? Has time added onto his contract after requesting his release? What should CM Punk do if he comes back? What would my new gimmick for Cesaro be? My dream Money in the Bank scenarios, and my latest review for AEW's Roode to Double or Nothing. What have I got to say this week? You know you want to find out. Stick around. Kicking off this week's show, I want to get to the two-part question that I've got prepared. The first part comes in from Justin on the Wrestling Marks fan group in Facebook. How do you watch wrestling if you're blind? And Justin said that he knows that I've probably been asked this a million times, but he's going to ask anyway. And I'm glad that you did, Justin, because it's a simple question. It's one that a lot of people have asked me individually or in person, but it's not necessarily one that I've tackled on air, so I'm going to talk about it now. Okay, so I use technology like my smartphone and my Samsung tablet. They both have talkback on because they both run on Android on the Samsung system. So once you've enabled talkback, your phone will read things that are on your screen. At the minute, the WWE Network is very, very accessible. I'm a little bit worried because I have heard that they're planning changes to the WWE Network later on this year, and as I said, right now it's very accessible. When I want to watch NXT or NXT UK, I just go on all shows, I go on In Ring, and they have Worlds Collide at the top, NXT UK, and then NXT. And then you go down on the list. It's all really, really accessible. Just reads it out. I click on it. This is why I don't necessarily cover Raw and SmackDown. One reason is the length and something I'll get to a little bit later. And the other is that it's not on the network, so I don't find it accessible to get to. So yeah, I mainly cover NXT and NXT UK because I find them very accessible on the network, so I hope that doesn't change in the future. As for what could enhance my viewing experience, I've come up with a couple of things for this. So the most obvious answer is I would like audio description added to WWE, and it's something that I hope that AEW does as well. I'm trying to sort of get a ball rolling on that. I've been leaving comments in the Road to Double or Nothing comment sections, just trying to get people to like it, get people to see it. Hopefully Cody and the Young Bucks can notice, and you never know, with the focus that they've got on inclusiveness, I would really hope that if they saw something like that, then they consider it. But I'd really like audio description added to the WWE Network. Now, the way I watch it as an actual viewer is I'm solely reliant on the commentary. I literally, everything that I get from the match is what the commentators call. Obviously, promos and the storylines are things that stick out to me a little bit more, although I really am trying to keep that passion for the in-ring product too. So I'm solely reliant on the commentary, so when they're not doing a good job, I don't enjoy the match. And there's also, just other little issues like, say in a match, there's definitely things that the direction tries to catch with camera angles that focus on people's facial expressions and things that they're trying to convey with the camera angles, and having audio description there to say, AJ Styles is looking frustrated and or whatever, and especially in backstage segments. I know that a lot of people have mentioned that Mustafa Ali has very cinematic styles that he works on and I'd like to be able to get the experience of that with the audio description, because a lot of the time, unless the backstage interviewer says who they're talking to, I sometimes don't even know if I'm not completely familiar with that wrestler. So it is a very different experience for me. I have had things where I've thought something's happened in a match and it hasn't, but yeah, the audio description would be the main thing that would enhance it for me. Something else that I'd quite like would be the tail of the tape. Now, they do that in boxing and UFC, etc., where before the match, they tell you how tall people are, where they're from, their reach, the weight, etc. And I feel like that would give me a little bit more of an image of what these people are like. So when new people are coming in that I am experiencing for the first time since I've lost my sight, people like Aleister Black, people like Ricochet, a number of those NXT talents, it would give me a bit more of an image of what they'd be like. So yeah, the tail of the tape would be another really would be a really welcome addition, as well as maybe if we get talking head segments with the wrestlers, where if they're just talking to an iPhone camera, it'd be nice if they introduce themselves, or with that audio description, if you just had the audio describer read out a little title card at the bottom of the screen or whatever. I feel like that would really enhance my viewing. Other than that, the only thing I can think of is 3 Nigel McGuinnesses all commentating together, because that would be incredible. Next, I wanted to talk about my dream sort of fantasy booking Money in the Bank scenario, because after a few years of lackluster Money in the Bank cash-ins and winners, I'd like to see it get a little bit revamped and a little bit more interesting. So here's my little fantasy booking scenario that you should let me know what you think once I've finished, or once you've finished watching the video. Either way, here we go. The Money in the Bank match is now like the Mae Young Classic. It's open to all brands. So you have 2 competitors from each brand, each going into the match. So for the men's, I would have Ricochet and AJ from Raw, because you've got Ricochet with, I don't even need to explain why you want him in a Money in the Bank match. AJ would be great because you've got that veteran experience in there. I think that would make it feel really special. I would go with Mustafa Ali and Sami Zayn from the SmackDown side of things, because I'd really like to see Mustafa Ali get more of a chance now. He was supposed to get that big push that Kofi ended up getting, and I feel sort of bad for the guy, and I'd like to see him show more of a chance. He was the first cruiserweight to graduate from 205 Live, and I'd like to see what he could do in the Money in the Bank match. Again, Sami Zayn, great in a ladder match. He would add that veteran experience, so you've got the mix of the younger and the older. Then I would have Roderick Strong and Montez Ford from NXT. I feel like, I don't know why, I feel like that could be really interesting. Montez Ford would just be a good random addition that can really go. I was really impressed with him on this week's NXT, and I just think that he would be a good addition, as well as Roderick Strong, because you could use that if he were to win. And you could use that to further the undisputed tension thing, because if it's open to all brands, Roddy can go around and he can tease cashing in on AJ and tease cashing in on Kofi, and then he's also got that chance to maybe cash it in NXT, and that could really, really drive that wedge between Adam Cole and him. I think that'd be great. And then finally, I think Dave Mastiff and Tyler Bate from the NXT UK side of things. I'm coming around on Dave Mastiff, that little segment that he had with Wolfgang not long ago, where he was shouting at him and they were having words. That really sort of turned me around on Dave Mastiff, and I think you need that big killer guy in the match, and I think with all the other guys, he's got that agility there as well, so they could really play up on that, and that'd be great. And Tyler Bate, that sort of just goes without saying. He's really, really over with people. He can do feats of strength, even though he's a presumably smaller guy. And I think that would be a really, really high-profile match. And I think that having it teased that they could go around on any brand and cash it in, and all the champs just being on edge because they don't know where he's going to cash it in. Because I really do think that I'd have Roderick Strong win this. If you hadn't guessed, I really think that would be a really, really cool way to go. AJ would also be a good winner for that match because it'd be cool to see AJ going round to the other brands. The brand split isn't particularly strong these days anyway. People go around, and imagine AJ Styles turning up in NXT, the brand that he jumped, and coming back and being like, yeah, I want a shot at that title, or at least teasing it, and we could get an AJ Gargano match, an AJ Adam Cole match, any of that sort of thing would be really, really cool. So for me, it'd be Roderick or AJ. What would your lineup be, and who would you have win? That's what I'd go for with the male side of things. With the women's side of things going down the same scenario, here's what my match would be, right? So we got, from Raw, I'd have Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan. Now, these two were recently in the Riott Squad. They got split up. They could have some nice interpersonal goings on in the match. You could even have them sort of sour on each other and turn on each other, and that way at least the Riott Squad has some closure of like, no, we're not together anymore, and I don't even like you that much. That would be pretty cool. So then Bayley and Charlotte I'd have from SmackDown. Now I know having Charlotte in that match would be annoying, but she's the Charlotte's Web that Becky can't escape from, so I could see her being weaseled into the Money in the Bank match. But I think that Bayley, as the unsung hero of the four horsewomen, coming in, being like, everyone's forgotten about me, they're all underestimating me, and sort of inserting herself between Becky and Charlotte could be really interesting, especially if she won, because it'd be interesting to see Charlotte sort of going after Becky and Bayley just being like, I'm here too, and that way she has the briefcase as well, and we could get Becky versus Bayley, a bit more of a serious Bayley. She could turn on Charlotte in the match. I'm not necessarily saying she turns heel, but the other women the other horsewomen have all turned on her at some point in terms of Sasha, like in the Elimination Chamber, she pulled what she pulled, and it could just be the same thing, Bayley just being like, no, I'm finally getting my own. So that's who I'd go for from SmackDown. If neither of those won, if you weren't going with Bayley winning, they could take each other out of the match because they would be just too focused with each other. From NXT, that's a hard one because there's quite a few good candidates. But I'm going to stick Shayna Baszler in there because I think that would be a high-profile name. I've expressed in the past that I'd really like to see an NXT champion as a Money in the Bank holder, so that would be pretty cool. And Candice LeRae is the other one because I wouldn't want to put Kacy Catanzaro in it yet, so Candice would probably be the one that I'd go with. And from NXT UK, I'd go with Ginny and... oh, who would I go for the second? You know what, Nina Samuels. I've quite liked Nina Samuels. No, you know what, I'm going to change it on the fly. I'm not going to change it. I'd go Ginny and Xia Brookside because you could play up on who Xia Brookside is. Another little high-profile name, something to add to the match, another new dimension. So those are my sort of dream scenarios for the Money in the Bank. I really don't know who I'd have win in that situation. Probably Shayna, and then she can lose her NXT Women's Championship, and she's still got the Money in the Bank, and she'd be a really dangerous Money in the Bank holder. So that's that's the second time on a podcast that I've advocated for Shayna Baszler to win Money in the Bank, but that's who I'd have win that match. What about you? Up next, a short and sweet one. What do I think of the Robert Roode repackage, renaming of Bobby Roode? I think this could be pretty interesting. He needed to drop that glorious gimmick anyway. It's it's well past its sell-by date. It's well past its use-by date. Never mind that. It's gone out of date. Let's just put it that way. It's really, really stale, and it's good that they've changed it. A bit weird that they're just giving him a mustache, but they could make him, distinguished guy, stuck-up guy. Go back to the suits like what he used to. It's a good change. Every now and again, people just need to shake off the cobwebs, and I think this will be a good one for him. As long as they actually go somewhere with it and try and capitalise on it, I think Robert Roode has the talent to make it work. So hopefully, as long as they actually put some creative force behind him, I think that the Robert Roode change could be pretty good for him. What should CM Punk do if he was to return to the ring? Now, I'm not going to go into the whole CM Punk returning thing. I'm sure you've all heard about it. I'm sure you've all watched the video and speculated plenty. Let's just skim over it and just say recently there's rumours of Punk returning to the ring. Now, I'm going to fantasy book a little bit and talk about what I think he should do if he were to come back. Now, I know the obvious answer is he goes to All Elite, and I really would like to see that because it'd be really big for All Elite. I'd be more excited for it from a standpoint of what it would do for All Elite than seeing CM Punk, because I'm not. I have a weird relationship with CM Punk. I think that I sort of soured on him over the years. I realised that he didn't have the best situation, but I don't think he's handled things the best either. But nonetheless, I have not got the right to judge the man with his personal life. So, just going from a wrestling standpoint, what that would mean for the business, what it would mean for All Elite if he was to return to them, that'd be really interesting. But what I think his gimmick could be, now if they brought him back in front of Chicago and then they have him cut a heel promo, I think it could really work, because here's what you do. You have him sort of tell the truth. And now he says, I've only come back because you won't leave me alone. He talks about how every time he goes out, he sees someone that asks him about returning to wrestling. There's always videos up on YouTube and people sending him tweets, and they just won't leave him alone. And even like talking about how the Chicago crowd is the worst because they just won't let him go. And like, you lot, you're always chanting my name at WWE shows, the place where I've left, rather than showing support to people, to big wrestlers, to truly talented wrestlers like AJ Styles and Seth Rollins. You're chanting CM Punk, and I'm sick of it. And I think it'd be really cool if they played it that he'd only come back because they just wouldn't leave him alone, just like, you wouldn't let me leave, so now I'm back. Are you happy now? Are you happy now? That'd be really brilliant. You just have him cut another pipe bomb just on everyone, just like, All Elite, you wanted me because it'd be big for you. It'll be a big star-making performance. I know that that Jericho's sort of doing the same thing, but that would also be good groundwork for leading into a Punk versus Jericho feud. So he could be like, you wanted me back because it'd be big for you, and everyone, as soon as you announced All Elite, everyone jumped on me. I had to come back because I look like a dick if I don't. So I think that would be a really interesting way to go with Punk if he were to come back, rather than just him coming back and being like, oh, I'm the best in the world again, or just any of that sort of thing. Just sort of resentful, you wouldn't let me leave and now I've got to come back to this. Sort of showing up as a duty sort of thing, I think would be really, really interesting. So that's what I'd do. What would you like to see Punk do if he returned? What do I think of the Luke Harper situation? So last week, Luke Harper asked for his release. Everyone thought that he was going to be gone. And then WWE didn't grant him release, and they added 6 months onto his contract because he was out injured for 6 months. So they can apparently do that. If you're out injured, they're going to add that time right back on and keep you for as long as they can. Now, it's a shame. It's a real shame, because I like Luke Harper. I think he's very talented. He's got a great Luke, from what I remember, but I could see Luke Harper a few years ago. So he's got a great look. He's not as strong on promos, but I think that's mainly because of the gimmicks they've given him. Because when I've actually heard him talk as the actual man, I'm not sure what his actual real name is, but when you actually hear him talk as the man, he's a very eloquent and nice sounding guy. So I just think that it might have been the fact that they were trying to get him to do these Luke Harper promos that they've had him be doing. He's always got to be this, tough, scary guy, and he didn't necessarily need to be that. And in a way, I almost wish that the Wyatt family had just never happened, because it's Bray's not managed to recover from it yet, and just very quickly the Firefly Funhouse gimmick, I think it's fine. I think it's got a decent vibe to it. It's done well, but it's not got legs. In 6 months, it'll be dead. Bray will be back to square one. I'd like to see him team up with Bo and be like the Rotunda brothers, and actually, acknowledge that they're brothers and have them be a real tag team. That could be a nice addition to the Raw tag team roster. But yeah, the Wyatt family has just led to nothing but crap for people, really. Rowan has literally only just got a new gimmick, being the recycling guy for Brian. But again, where's that gonna go? Where is he now that Brian's gone? Where does he go down the line? The Bray Wyatt thing is, they're still struggling to try and give him a creepy gimmick. Braun Strowman is the one that seems to sort of escape from it, because he's gone above that now. He's the monster among men. He's moved on from those Wyatt days. But they kept trying with Luke, and they did the Bludgeon Brothers thing, and it didn't really work out. And I just wish that they could do something to start making people a little bit more happy. I don't know what they need to do, but if Dean is actually gone, that's a shame. That's a big loss for them. Sasha Banks is in that situation that she's in at the minute. I don't know whether it's a work or whether it's real. If it's real, it's a shame that she's acting that way, but it's also a shame that she feels like she has to. And I wish that they could find a way to make people happy, and hopefully, this might be a pipe dream, but I'd like to see them actually do something with Luke Harper in those 6 months that they've added onto his contract, and hopefully down the line he can be in a position where he's actually happy to re-sign and we don't have to lose him, because I think that he's great for the WWE roster, and he could be a huge star if they just used him right. So yeah, sort of a bummer really that he wants to go, but I hope that this isn't the end for Luke Harper. So Cesaro's on his own now, presumably. Sheamus seems to be out injured and now in the Superstar shake-up. Cesaro's been moved to Raw, presumably on his own, and I'm going to repackage him. Now, this is sort of a mixture of I'm having a laugh, and this is kind of stupid, but I also think that you could kind of make it work, right? So what if Cesaro is now a chef? Now, I'm not talking he comes in the chef outfit and the hat and all that lot, and you never have him do chef puns like, I'm going to beat you black and blue, or just that sort of thing, you stay away from those sort of puns. But what if Cesaro was presented as putting together 5-star meals, just like he puts together 5-star matches, right? So you do these, you always have him cutting promos while he's doing something that you can have be somewhat cinematic, right? So chopping veg with a really sharp knife while he's cutting a promo and talking about that, or like tenderizing a really nice looking steak, or flame grilling something that you could make sort of cinematic and frame well. And it should never be something that he particularly references, like what he's doing. He's just preparing the meal and cutting his promo, and it's just this thing that he treats wrestling a match like putting together the best cooked meal. He's got all the ingredients and he knows how to put them together, and he just has to do it. And when he gets that 1, 2, 3, it's like taking the bite of that the first bite of the best cooked meal that he could possibly put together, an expertly crafted. I just think it'd be really cool, like, you know, having be this high class. He could drink IPA beers and and like true like Belgian beers and all that sort of stuff, and there's just different things that you could have him do while he's cutting a promo, just like finishing up his meal and cleaning off his hands or whatever, and it's always just sort of vaguely threatening and ominous, like I said, with like chopping the veg with the knives, just sort of all vaguely cinematic and ominous. I don't know why. I think it could work. Now, obviously, like I said, you could go down the absolute ridiculous route, and it could could be what you think it would be, just a chef gimmick, and that would be absolutely terrible. But I genuinely think that if you pulled it off as if he was just, like I said, putting together 5-star meals like he puts together 5-star matches, I think that could at least be something that Cesaro could go off, because I don't want him to just get lost in the shuffle. He's way too good for that, and I'd like to see, now that he's a single star again, I'd like to see him get a little bit of character back. We know he can speak 5 languages. He's a smart guy. He could just be that, you know, just be that high society, high class, polished kind of guy. And I just think that'd be a really good gimmick for him. So that would be my repackage of Cesaro. You got any ideas for what you do with Cesaro now that he's on his own? Would you have him have a gimmick? Would you have him continue sort of the character that he has been while he's in the bar? Let me know in the comment section down below. And last but not least, by very, very far not least, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of AEW's Roode to Double or Nothing, the latest chapter in the Cody versus Dustin Rhodes story. Right, so last week I talked about how Dustin cut a promo and talking about Cody and how he was sort of offended by the fact that Cody wants to put him out to pasture, that he doesn't know why there's this brotherly rift between them, etc, etc. Now Cody comes back this week with what I thought was a 6 out of 6 promo. It was absolutely fantastic. It's just over 4 minutes, but my God, did Cody put some weight into this promo. He starts off the episode by stating that he loves his brother, and he states it as a fact, as an almost obvious fact, like, yeah, of course I love my brother, I always have done. And he plays it like there is no brotherly rift. Like, he talks about the prodigal sons, and he talks about one of the sons staying at home and trying to keep the family together and please their father, while the other one goes off and whores around and makes the worst decisions that they possibly can. And he says he knows what brother he is, which I think was really cool, because it leaves it sort of ambiguous, because he's trying to play it like he doesn't resent Dustin, like he's got nothing against him. So he sort of makes it sound like he could be the son that went away from home, and he makes it sound like he could be the son that stayed. He knows which, but he's going to leave us to decide which one he is, and I really like that. So he's sort of trying to play it like there is no brotherly rivalry, almost like there's no need to, because he knows that Dusty loved them equally. And I really enjoyed the content of this promo. It was just so spot on. He has this money line where he says that he's not out to kill Dustin, he's out to kill the Attitude Era. And in that way, it's funny, because the fans and Dustin have had Cody completely wrong, or at least he wants us to believe that we have, because he's trying to make it look like the problem isn't his brother as his brother. It's what his brother stands for. It's that old guard Attitude Era, keeping the young guy down because they're scared to lose the spot. He's sick of his generation of wrestlers being kept down by his brother's generation. I really, really liked that. It made it so much more weighty, because all of a sudden Cody's coming out with these things that have just come out of left field. No one was expecting him to bring the Attitude Era into this, and he calls. Well, I presume he's talking about Triple H. He calls Triple H a pissant bodybuilder, booking no DQ matches and throwing the jib camera at his opponent and saying, can that really ever compare to a Kenny Okada match? And were bra and panties matches, could they ever even compare to what the women did at All In? So fantastic. Just rather than it being, from Dustin's point of view, it's been brother versus brother, like Cody said, natural versus nightmare. It's all super marketable and super interesting and dramatic, but that's not what it is for Cody. He has it out for the Attitude Era, saying, he brings up The Rock and says, was Rock's promos with him rhyming and raising his eyebrow and cracking jokes, was that any more impactful than what CM Punk said when he sat on that stage and cut the pipe bomb? And he's bringing history into it that really matters, and it really makes it feel like he's got another agenda as opposed to just the brotherly rivalry. He says it's generation versus generation. But this is where it gets really interesting, because he starts talking about if you have a wounded animal and it's in its death throes and it knows it's going to die, you don't just leave it to die. You draw from the hip and you pull back the hammer and you blow it away. And I really like that it was all really respectful, how he was talking about it. And then it pivots and he says, you blow it away, almost like he slipped up. And he talks about getting rid of the animal. And then he closes the episode by saying, like I said, I love my brother, sort of implying that Dustin is the animal that he's going to put out of its misery. And that's really interesting, because what are Cody's motivations? Does he really have it out for the Attitude Era? Is there some brotherly resentment there that he's denying? There's so many angles to look at this from, and now it's really blurred the lines between Dustin and Cody of who's in the wrong and who's in the right, because Dustin's had Cody all wrong, if Cody's telling the truth. Just assumed that he's going from a place of brotherly resentment as opposed to resentment of the old ways. And I really, really enjoyed it. God damn, am I hyped for Roode. God damn, am I hyped for Double or Nothing. I'm actually really excited about it. I just can't wait to see something that's a little bit different, not something that I've experienced before, and jump in on the ground floor of what is going to be a really, really good pay-per-view. And along with all those other matches that they booked, this Dustin Cody thing could be a really, really integral part of AEW's history in years to come if it becomes a successful company. If you haven't been watching these Road to Double or Nothing episodes, they are very effective at drawing empathy from you in terms of the promos that are being cut and making it feel like a very family, not family friendly, but just an accepting environment. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. But yeah, this latest Road to Double or Nothing, Cody's promo was absolutely fantastic. If you haven't watched it, you really, really should. It's brilliant. So that's what I think of that. And so we've reached the end of the show. That's all there is to say. What are your thoughts on any of these topics from this week? If you have any, leave them down in the comments down below, because I'm very, very interested to see what everyone else thinks, especially about the new Cesaro gimmick. I know that it's stupid, but it could be fun. If you've liked what you've heard here, remember, click that like button. It'll go a long way, especially towards making me feel good. If you've got any questions for next week's episode, make sure that you leave them down in the comments to either this video or any of the videos from later this week. And if you want to stay up to date with Wrestling in the Dark, hit that subscribe button, hit the notify bell, and you will never miss an episode. Right guys, I'm off, and you should have a good one.